Wheels up for back-to-back games in Europe. First, the Steelers in Ireland. Secondly, the Browns in London. Your Vikings, the first in the history of the National Football League to play back-to-back games abroad. So why us? Why them? Why the Minnesota Vikings? Likeable team with a gregarious and loquacious head coach, superstars on offense and defense, and tens of thousands of all of our Purple Lives fans making it appointment travel to hit games like this. They come from far and wide, and Sunday at Croke Park will be interesting to see who wins the throat battle. The throat battle. Which fan base makes it a home game for their team? Because like the Cowboys and the Packers, Steelers Nation travels incredibly well and has pockets of fans all over the world. In 2013, the noise level was a push at Wembley for the Vikings and Steelers. We'll deem it a push. It was amazingly loud with an electric atmosphere on the field up to the game. The throat battle at Wembley in 2013, kind of a push between the Vikings and Steelers until Everson Griffin toppled Big Ben and the Vikings secured a victory. During the miracle season of 2017 at a place called Twickenham Stadium, which is a rugby union station in Twickenham, England, Vikes fans dominated the throat battle and went 75-25 to the Browns noise. When Adam Thielen caught a Case Keenum touchdown pass and then did a soccer slide in the end zone, the stadium erupted loudly enough to hear from Twickenham to Tibet. Same thing in 2022. And the double doink W at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Vikes fans joyously celebrating a victory up and down the frenzied streets of London. And last year, when Van Ginkel went yard on Aaron Rodgers and the Jets, it felt like a home game at U.S. Bank Stadium. It became so loud. So that's part of the reason this team, that team, the team keeps getting asked to do stuff like this, because the organization on many levels in the fan base are now at home when jetting east to play these games. It's an organization and a fan base on which the National Football League and ever-emerging Euro fans can count. This is the ultimate backpack adventure due to the week and a half away from the comforts of home. Now, the challenge may be, I'd like to say will be, but the challenge may be in a week and change, probably like a week from now, preparing for the Cleveland Browns. That's going to be the human nature game of the two of them, because people will sense home, as in the cornfields, is viewable over the horizon, and days away from the toil await the bye week. Now, that's the Cleveland game. That might be a human nature game. But end of the equation, it's an honor to be part of all this, and that's where my heart goes. Through the clump and cluster and confusion lies peace and rest and fellowship with each other. A chance to sit in a regal library at a spacious manor outside London and chat with the hitman for a half hour like in 2022. I, for one, love the unknown and breaking routine and that of the mundane. Wheels up for all of that is about 12 hours from now. The game Sunday, 8:30 a.m. Cornfields time. So drop some talkbacks. Free iHeart Audio app. Drop some talkbacks for about 30 minutes from now. What's on your mind with the team as they travel east about 12 hours from now over the Atlantic to Dublin, Ireland? And what will the record be when they return from 2-1? Are we looking at a 4-1? What's the record going to be when they return? Vikes takes in talkback-like fashion to be played about 30 minutes from now. And are we looking at a 4-1 into the chill, and then the champs out of the chill? Drop some talkbacks, and we'll share them, I'd say about 9:45, somewhere around then. The first to slay in the land of the Blarney Stone are the Pittsburgh Steelers, led by Mike Tomlin, former defensive coordinator for the Minnesota Vikings. Here's Nordo to guide us through some Tomlin takes, and good morning.
Oh, good morning. Well, first of all, watching Tomlin's press conference in advance of this game in Dublin, tons of respect for Tomlin, looking forward to this game. He talks to the pressers, to the members of the assembled Pittsburgh area media. He talks to them for about 12 minutes before he takes the very first question.
Wow.
It was very unique. The Pittsburgh Steelers, they actually put together an entire bit. They have like a studio reaction crew to the presser. It's a Tomlin Tuesday.
That's
out
what
in Yinzerville.
That's what you call shaping your environment.
And he has done a good job of that over the course of his tenure in Pittsburgh. It was interesting to get Tomlin's perspective of what he's facing, his opponent. Hey, that's our team. First, you'll hear him talking about the Vikings offense.
Start first with the Viking offense. I think they've already made the announcement that Carson Wentz is their starting quarterback this week, and that certainly has our attention. He's a Grizzly veteran. Oftentimes, particularly when you have a young, inexperienced quarterback, there's some big-time benefits of playing with a vet backup. The veteran guy oftentimes does the intangible components of the job very well. They communicate and articulate the schematics and the plan to others. They uplift guys and get people lined up. They oftentimes are able to carry more schematic responsibility and so forth at the line of scrimmage. And so I don't necessarily view it as a negative thing for the Minnesota Vikings, at least in the short term, that Carson is playing for him. We were in a similar situation a year ago. We were playing in Indianapolis, man, and I commented to the guys that, keep Richardson upright. Don't put Flacco in the game. And, Flacco ended up in the game.
And they lost.
And I think that's oftentimes some of the things that you can run into when you run into a veteran guy, at least from a short-term perspective. And so we got a lot of respect for Carson and his journey, his experience, and what he's capable of providing.
I wonder about the inside conversations. Part of that just kind of enjoying to hear how he views Carson coming in. But when I was listening and I heard that bit, I'm just picturing coaches are like, you can't hurt Anthony Richardson.
Right.
We have to face Anthony Richardson because Joe Flacco's going to come in. Flacco is not synonymous with flashy, but Flacco has experience and he will be efficient, savvy, and he will beat us. And that's exactly what happened in that game he referenced.
Tomlin takes are the bomb. Tomlin responses in press conference-like fashion are absolutely fantastic. It definitely has our attention. That would be grizzled veteran as opposed to grizzly veteran. But you know what? Maybe Carson Wentz has some bear in him. I also liked how Mike said there are vast and ever expanding benefits using a veteran backup in short order and short form. He's like, you can do a lot of good things with that for now.
Right. So he said that 2 different times, in fact,
so
in the short term at least.
He's telling us there's an expiration date on what we're seeing. So hopefully the expiration date takes place after the Cleveland game into the chill.
Indeed, and he's worried, what's the health of a Derek Harmon? How's TJ Watt looking? All of those things.
Derek Harmon, though.
Because he has an eye on our weapons.
He certainly has a full repertoire of targets available to him. The return of Jordan Addison, I think, is significant. Watched him a lot when he was in Pittsburgh. He is a talented receiver. He's capable of taking the top off the coverage. He has very good body control and hand-eye coordination and fine motor skills. He's good after the catch. Certainly, Jefferson is a man to be reckoned with. Good 50-50 ball guy. Tough, good after the catch as well. TJ at tight end is a challenge. And so, Carson has a nice arsenal of people to throw the ball to. Jones, their running back, is down, but they have Mason. Mason's a guy that distinguished himself in the league last year in San Fran, playing in place of McCaffrey. He's a downhill runner. His power always falls in the right direction. He had a really good game last week, and so, there's a lot of things that have our attention. The return of their left tackle is a major component, not only of their run game, but also protecting Carson's blind side. And so we got a lot to be concerned about and prepare for on that side of the ball.
How cool is it that Addison's back, PA? I mean, we've already mentioned it a couple times this week, but Free 3 is officially in effect into London on Sunday.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to how it benefits not only Justin Jefferson, but Jalen Naylor, as we mentioned yesterday. When they go 3 wide with Jefferson, Addison, and Naylor, early in the season last year, it paved the way for Jalen Naylor to get a bunch of quick touchdowns out of the gate, like scores in 3 consecutive. I think he finished with 6. The Hawkinson portion of the equation, and likewise for Josh Oliver, who has a touchdown, it will develop itself off the receivers, I feel. But there's so much new that continues to come at Carson Wentz, who's of the scholarly variety, so you can tell he picks up things fast. But expecting an implementation of Jordan Addison, with like 10, 11, 12 targets initially, I think that'd be a stretch. But I wouldn't be surprised if they try to put Jordan on a big game. It's fascinating.
One thing we haven't discussed much throughout the week is the connection that Mike Tomlin has to Brian Flores.
Yeah.
And here's Tomlin chatting about Flo's defense.
On the defensive side of the ball, certainly highly familiar with Coach Flores and his schematic approach to football, but it certainly doesn't make the preparation process or the playing against it any less difficult. He's very multiple in his schemes and thoughtful. He attacks protections from a passing game perspective and does so very well. He plays in an aggressive up posture, structured defensively. It doesn't always mean that he blitzes a lot. Sometimes he can fall out of that into a variety of bogus zones. More than anything, man, he carries a big menu. He challenges you individually and collectively from a football intellect perspective. I think the veteran-laden secondary really allows a lot of those things to happen. I think the return of Harrison Smith is significant on the back end, tying all of those things together. They got a nice veteran group at corner. Rodgers had a big game last week, and certainly Murphy's been around. And so I think when you got veterans like that, it allows you to carry a big menu and do some of the things that they do pre-snap from a look perspective that really is challenging to protection schemes.
Do you think that the way that we might laugh about or joke about like weighty downs or low red or things, if you're in Pittsburgh, you're like, what's on the menu today, Mr. Tomlin? Or, ooh, that's a bogus zone. I see a bogus zone. Like the terminology, it's fun to kind of hear. There's almost little cultural nuances depending upon who's coaching the team.
Yeah, it's an opportunity for those to say things like, Coach, I noticed a bogus zone that potentially could be on their menu in voluminous fashion, and it has my attention.
I always love that one.
I like how Mike talks.
It is significant. I have one more Tomlin take for you, and it pertains to travel.
We're doing some things to acclimate ourselves to the trip. We're working early this week to start the body clock transition process. We certainly have some best practices in terms of acclimating ourselves once we begin the journey at the latter part of the week, but nothing unique there. A lot of organizations have been traveling internationally now for a number of years, and so some of those procedural things that put you in position to best perform are less mystical and really more best practices, the hydration factor, the sleep factor, and all of those things. We had a good admin meeting yesterday regarding some of that stuff so that we can get singularly focused on the football work, the prep work that's going to be required to position ourselves to play winning football.
Got to get that body clock thing working. I don't know how you're going to handle it. I don't know what your plan is, but it sounds like Tomlin and the Steelers, much like I assume our favorite team is, on it in terms of getting themselves ready for international play.
Well, my plan is that I've been up for 5 hours and 15 minutes.
Okay.
I got up at 4:10 this morning. So therefore, on the 6.5 hour journey this evening to Dublin, it's not easy for me to position myself and sleep on planes. But I'm going to try to be so tired this evening that I sleep on the plane. And then when we land, one of the keys that I've learned over the years is if you're super tired, you got to push through it and get yourself. I mean, even if you go to sleep at like 7 o'clock that night, at least it helps the acclimation process with the body clock and then the dramatic time change.
So that's Tomlin takes. We get to hear a bit of the head coach's, the adversary's perspective of our favorite football team into the weekend. Mike Tomlin sweating the health, and not so much. His cornerbacks are getting a little bit healthier here, and he's feeling good about the status of his best 11 heading into Sunday's game.
And courtesy of TimberTech and TimberTech.com, what's on deck 9 to noon includes Vikes Bites next, some talkbacks at about 9:40, 9:45. Ben Lieber, Nacho Lieber, with his weekly stop into the Covenant, 45 minutes from now. And we take you to church for a fantasy feast at 11 o'clock. This is 9 to noon at FM 100.3 KFAN. Good morning.
Vikes Bites! Let everybody know about Vikes Bites.
Vikes Bites.
Vikes Bites, welcome back, 9 to noon. Vikes Bites always presented by Thousand Hills Lifetime Grazed Grass-Fed Beef.
Blarney.
And you can shop online. A box of meat will show up at your doorstep. Local Coburn's, Kowalski's locations, local co-ops out in the rural areas. And, well, they're proud sponsors of Gophers Athletics. We love them, Matt and everybody. It's a Clearwater, Minnesota company. Delicious product. Check them out. KO cuts. We heard some Tomlin takes, now some KO cuts. I got a text, actually, during the first segment while we were running through some things. Hey, is J.J. McCarthy going on the trip? Well, yes, in fact. With the ankle and such, he will be traveling with the Minnesota Vikings. He was asked yesterday, I believe, about his practice situation.
Kevin, do you anticipate J.J. practicing at all this week? McCarthy?
I don't have an answer for that right now. I just know that he's continuing to progress along and is into a kind of a different phase of that rehab from the initial kind of just the reactionary kind of early treatment to that injury and swelling and kind of getting some of the healing started, and then now it becomes the strengthening, the mobility, and kind of building himself back.
Yeah, good experience for the kid to be over there with the squad, PA, but still I would anticipate a lot of light lifting and potentially, maybe not practicing until next week against the Browns, if he practices at all, given the emphasis the coach has put on the idea that, we need him to be fully confident on that ankle. Then we need to work him into a practice stretch, and then we can begin talking about playing and what the future of the development process looks like for number 9.
Well, is it possible for them, specifically Kevin O'Connell, is it possible for him to know to himself or to have shared with, those who are closest with him, when this is right, I don't care what has happened in front of us, we're going with this kid. And personally speaking, if that is the approach, well, I would like J.J. McCarthy to get a chance to play with Christian Darrisaw. Wentz didn't play with Addison. And this is no knock on Carson at all. He did fine. I think he's going to do quite well this weekend, too. Pittsburgh's defense, the farther down the road I get on it just leaves a little to be desired. I watched probably 20-25 Sam Darnold plays yesterday against Pittsburgh, and it was open all-night terrorism.
Yeah.
You protect somebody, and some of these veterans get lost, or they're slow. There were some 50-50s in that thing, but there were Seahawks running wide open for a balance of the game. So
he did mention in that week, though, I will say this. He said that he had 4 corners that day that had they were all new to the Steelers. Like, they had to bring in Jabril Peppers.
Yeah.
That the injury situation was massive. Now, that's not ultimately an excuse, right? I get that. But that was I've just been seeing a lot of reporting done.
Yeah.
Certainly different parts of their team but similar to the Vikings, where it's a freaking mash unit out there in Pittsburgh right now, specifically with their secondary, and I guess it's trending the right way.
Yeah, I haven't come together on like the style of play that I think it'll take to win in this game. I mean, it's the way they ran Mason last game. I'm not necessarily sure that's completely the approach this game, specifically with Addison returning, because no matter who you put out there, when you spread 4 wide with what they have, and a quarterback who, copyright Mike Tomlin's lingo, will have a menu that may not be 100 pages, but it's going to be enough to get everybody in the right spot at the right time. I think this is a throwing game at this stage of the equation. So with McCarthy, when I say with O'Connell, maybe it's bang your fist on the Formica, and you know exactly what you're going to do no matter how Carson plays. I think that's difficult. I think that's difficult to 10 of 10 get to that spot, because if Wentz goes lights out the next 2 and continues to improve, well, that's a good problem to have, but it would have some problem to it, and you'd have some time off to think about it. And then when you're employing backups, you're not hearing this now, because maybe a plan has been set when McCarthy's ankle is healed, or maybe they just don't want to talk about it. And I would skew the way of the latter. But what you're not hearing is, well, we have the bye coming up, and that's a good time for so-and-so to get up to speed with whatever.
Right.
Well, you're just not hearing that. So I don't, like O'Connell said at his press conference the other day, that there's no need to have the right answer right now.
Yeah.
But I do believe it's going to be perplexing in the relative near future.
I do wonder, because when you say lights out, I think there's a subjective part of that. Like, we can just throw out stats like 303 and say, that would be lights out, certainly. And you win both games, of course, you're 4-1, and Carson is just unflappable. That's lights out. Yep. Maybe in just the general objective sense. But subjectively, in terms of how the team perceives it, it may not even have to be 303 as much as it is. And I can't remember what part. Maybe one of them he talks about the pre-snap penalties and various things. And I think I got a Carson cut coming up. But kind of the idea of the pre-snap penalties going away. He's seeing general efficiency. You're not walking out of a game going, man, was TJ covered or TJ not? Like, you're just seeing some certain aspects of the offense that just kind of start to make sense. And if there is that Grand Canyon-esque gap between number 9 still needing to grow and the veteran, although not gaudy on the stat sheet, but everything's just working better, lights out might not just necessarily mean the highest numbers. You know what I mean?
Correct. And lights out, it's a figure of speech. So, it can be, does his job, performs well enough to complement everybody else in a team game that gets them to the winner's circle, which means they won. Like, to wit, in the last game, Carson Wentz was sacked 3 times. All right, 2 of the sacks, he kind of hoisted the white flag, held the ball tightly, and went down. All right, well, that's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
But not everybody does it. Some people try to make a play out of that, and they throw it to the wrong team. It's again, I would like to get J.J. McCarthy with Christian Darrisaw, because a left tackle for a right-handed quarterback is the nookie blankie. And there's a mental aspect of being the point guard, being the pitcher, being the one who touches the football most. The arguably the single most important person in these games are the quarterbacks. So I'd like him to have that level of comfort with 71 full throttle into what I would assume would be the Eagles game, or maybe right around there. I would like that. But B, like when he threw it right to the bear who got to the house, well, there was minimal of no pressure.
Right.
The Darrisaw factor there didn't matter, but it happened. Then in the Falcons game near the end, just threw it right to a guy.
Yep.
Well, I don't envision Wentz doing things like that, even not knowing much about, how this offense completely is supposed to work. So that's a lot. It's a lot in front of O'Connell right now.
Vikes Bites! Speaking of in front of Kevin O'Connell, there was a run game that went for nearly $170 against those Bengals as part of the blowout. Jordan Mason accommodating us with, I believe, 116, 7.3 a clip. And he was asked, does this lend confidence to being able, from a play calling standpoint, to lean on that run game?
Even in game, I mean, you can feel it. And, I'm sure you guys felt a chill beneath your feet when I think at one point I called 3 or 4 runs in a row.
He's trolling everybody.
Even the guy, listen, have really enjoyed how we've attacked people over the years here and tried to make the best parts of our offense and the best way to attack people based upon our skill sets. I've enjoyed that side of it, and I'm absolutely loving the idea of forming the identity that best fits this team, and that's my job. It starts with that of making sure we're doing the things that we need to do for these guys to have success and to try to make the best situation we possibly can for our players, and play calls have a ton to do with that.
So maybe season at large, the confidence that Jordan Mason is offering the coach at this particular point in time, the tandem once Aaron Jones returns to the mix, season at large. But you would say you're kind of feeling this is a game where the Vikings will have an opportunity, Addison back in the mix, as we know, to potentially get him through the air a bit.
Well, the options are what the offensive coaches, the team, and the fans, I would imagine, have been excited about since before we learned about Jordan Addison's suspension. And it's been a real thrill watching these games back, just seeing how 10 of 10 Jalen Nailor's going.
Yeah.
And how 10 of 10 Adam Thielen is accepting a unique role in which he's been put.
And the menu's looking even better now that you got Jordan Addison back in stock.
Yeah, the menu has some prime on it. And let's just not forget, the last time we saw Jordan Addison, he was running roughshod on the New England Patriots in 2 joint practices, which were kind of like games. And for my taste, Jordan Addison stole the show at training camp. I thought he was terrific. So now off the layoff with the ability to be around the facility, he's going to be up to speed on the plays, and his conditioning, while maybe not 10 of 10 tip-top game-type conditioning, Jordan Addison is an extremely tough cover who runs routes that at the top of the route, you have no idea which way he's going because he does everything full speed, like Jefferson, like Thielen, and getting like Nailor. So there's a lot there for Carson, and it's perfect that you put the 1 and change on 17 carries on Mason in the previous game, because now the beef eaters have to acknowledge that when you go play action. So I think they beat the Steelers. The next one's a little more curious to me, but we'll deal with that next week.
The one thing, just watching through it all, and they get out alive. They're a 2-1 operation. It was a nail biter against the Jets. They get handled by Darnold, and then it was New England by a touchdown.
Yep.
Wait. Aaron Rodgers can't freaking move.
Yeah, I don't think he wants anything to do with this defense.
And that's and part of it, when Tomlin was talking about the defense, I apologize as I'm kind of stuttering here.
What happened?
But Harrison Smith being back means so much to the back end of this defense.
Yes.
And I love that connection. And we've heard them talk about it, the mutual respect that Rodgers and Harrison Smith have had for each other over the course of their time playing against each other.
Yeah.
But it ain't just 2-2. Now, that's going to be organized. Aaron Rodgers is as smart as it gets behind the line of scrimmage. He's going to have the opportunity to figure out what's happening and make those plays. That offensive line, whether it's their complete impotence in the run game, their inability to protect, he's been sacked 7 times through 3 games. I know they kept him clean against really an inferior defensive spot with the Patriots. But Aaron Rodgers cannot escape. He cannot escape pressure. He physically cannot do it anymore. Hargrave and Allen, buffet. Feast on, my brothers, because you get thrust from the inside on Rodgers. Mm-hmm. It is going to be a bloodbath back there if we can make that happen. This is definitely the best defensive front he's going to face, not just thus far in the season, but for a lot of what the Steelers are going to go through this year. Could be problems for old number 12.
When O'Connell at his press conference Monday spoke in length about it was feet and foundation, and I didn't get to it Tuesday because we ran out of time. It just with Carson Wentz and J.J. McCarthy, just the feet telling the story and keeping the foundation with the feet.
He's a feet guy.
No, Rex Ryan doesn't coach here. It's Kevin O'Connell. The foundation the good ones have to be poised when the rush is coming or when they're bouncing around and they know they have a lot of time and they're playing fast. Well, when I watch some Aaron Rodgers passes and when it gets a little hot, and I saw this last year too with the Jets, his knees buckle, and they never used to buckle. Okay, now against Flores last year and a couple of times in the most recent game, well, he's feeling ghosts more than I think he ever has. Not necessarily seeing them, where it's still tough to dupe one of the smartest players in the history of the NFL.
Yeah.
But he watches so much film and is so dialed in on what's supposed to happen per the set he's seen that if he holds it 2.5 seconds, his knees buckle a little and the ball comes down by his waist.
It does.
Because he's getting a little concerned there's somebody busting off the edge that he doesn't feel or see. And generally speaking, that player's not there. Just watch for that this weekend. Personally speaking, I don't think he wants anything to do with this style of defense. The tricks up the sleeves and the maturation of the tricks, like you said, and you said it into the Falcons game or after the Falcons game, I think, about Harrison Smith and the communicative nature of what they're able to unfurl. And I was looking at it kind of like from a secondary standpoint, but when you watch back the Cincinnati game when Harrison was in there, it looks like Flores 10 of 10, best defense with the tricks.
It does.
And when Harrison isn't in there, they just don't do all of that stuff. Well, that's key, too, because Rodgers will note that, too. But I would fully expect Harrison Smith to play more of this game. But that's a big, big key, having Harrison to unfurl those tricks against somebody who I think is feeling, not seeing, feeling ghosts.
Well, it's almost, you could look at it in a lot of things where when you're young and learning, you have a J.J. McCarthy that in some cases is holding the ball too long because everything he is seeing, he's wearing himself into it. He's growing, he's learning, it's experience, it's reps. Now on the other side of the spectrum, you got a guy that's had all the reps, but he's also been the guy that he is, the MVP, the future Hall of Famer, because of immense self-confidence.
Yep.
But if he's feeling those ghosts, what that tells me is there's a self-awareness.
That's a really good tag.
You mentioned 2.5 seconds. He knows what's going to happen, but he's also aware that he physically can't avoid it.
There it is.
And evade it with the same gusto that he used to.
Yeah.
So now 2.5 has to be 2. And in a lot of cases, DK hasn't broken off his route. Calvin Austin or the Freiermuth, he's waiting for Freiermuth to make the hook. He can't wait that long because he knows physically his body can't get him out of that jam anymore.
That's beautifully put, because the best of the best ever to best, the HOF, and Aaron Rodgers is a Hall of Fame quarterback. Their next level film study and their next level scholarly approach in Antoine Winfield-like fashion has them so far ahead of defensive coordinators and defensive players as the game goes on.
Yeah.
So it's the fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. That's exact. Everybody gets everybody early in the game. It's as the game goes on, the best coaches and the best quarterbacks are like, I saw that twice. I know you're bringing this. I'm double moving that guy, and I'm going to get an 80-yard touchdown. And they do. Okay, so now Aaron Rodgers is an incredibly self-confident human being, just very cocksure in his approach. His arm's still strong, but with the knees and the ball dropping and everything, it's the physical nature of a couple of things here. One, I can't get myself out of trouble the way I used to, so therefore I'm more apt to get hit in ways that I've never been hit. Secondly, is at age 40, they start to recognize if you get hit the wrong way, it's not bounce back up and play the next play. It might be sit out a quarter. It might be sit out a season.
Yeah.
And thirdly, is when you rush Grenard and Van Ginkel or Grenard and Dallas Turner, and when Dallas is full of juice, you only need to rush 4 to get around some of these beef-eating tackles.
Yep.
So that's 4 drop 7. That's 4 drop 7. Oh, you sent an extra. That's 5 drop 6.
Bogus zone.
Oh, you got 7 across the line, and here comes Hitman and 4 drop. It's Aaron will figure out facets of that as the game goes on, but it's the feeling of things that aren't there, which I think gets him in a game like this.
Did it worry you at all seeing on the injury report, and I didn't cut that part of the KO cut, but Van Ginkel only plays the 8 snaps. He gets a couple of sacks, but now it's evolved from a concussion. We know he passed all that into the game.
Oh, it's been a neck.
But now there's a neck thing.
Yeah.
The neck thing is persisting and kind of manifesting itself into being a problem.
Yeah, there was a neck in training camp and then the concussion, but things worked out so beautifully last game. The guy who was going to be a part-time guy in the first place only had to play 8 plays.
That's sweet.
So hopefully he at least goes limited today. And next segment, we're looking for your talkbacks. Free iHeart Audio app on the microphone. Your State of the Skull takes on the Minnesota Vikings. And also, what's the Vikings record going to be when they come home and head into the bye? Then they play the Eagles in a few weeks. From 2-1, do they get the money against Pittsburgh and Cleveland? Is Cleveland as much of a potential human nature game as I think it is? From a group being away from the comfort of what they're used to for a week and a half. It's unprecedented, which means if it's unprecedented, then that gives people the opportunity to look at human nature, because human nature is consistent. Trips like this are not consistent. So hit the talkback microphone. We'll play some back around the corner on KFAN.
Hey, PA and Nordo, it's Olivia from Rochester. The Vikes are coming back from Europe 2-0. 2-0 from Europe. 2-0 from Europe.
2-0 from Euro.
2-0 from Euro. 2-0 from Euro. Thank you, Olivia. That was the highlight of the day so far. And we appreciate your talk back to the free iHeart Audio app. Talk back now.
What's up, PA Nordo? Joe from Bismarck, ND. Excited to see Carson Wentz, the hometown kid, doing really good. As far as this weekend goes, I have every confidence that Wentz is going to be slinging it down the field and doing good. Do you think that with Brian Flores' familiarity with the Steelers, and especially with Aaron Rodgers, as the Vikings have played him every year for years, that Isaiah Rodgers is going to get pick 6 number 2 on the year?
Ooh, Rodgers to Rodgers.
Thank you, Bismarck.
Wow. My man's convinced. Carson's sitting on a good one.
Yep.
All right, that's cool.
701 area codes generally do.
Yep. Thank you, Bismarck. But I haven't really thought a lot yet about Flores with Tomlin and with the Steelers. I mean, because he was there, this would be his 3rd year here. So he was there in 2022. And while some of the names are the same, everything changes and everything is so fluid with the National Football League and free agency. And, Aaron Rodgers is the quarterback. So Flores wasn't part of a group or a defense that included the likes of T.J. Watt and or Alex Highsmith, some age-old Steelers who, were planning for what they're going to see this weekend. Brian's up to speed on Aaron Rodgers. You could tell that last year when he faced the Jets. And, the Jets' offensive line wasn't really the greatest in the world last year. But the Steelers' offensive line reminds me to a certain degree of Cincinnati, where the tackles are just really, really big. They're really big behemoth tackles, and they move okay for their size. But it's a biggish offensive line where they want to power run on you, and they want to get over the top with Austin or maybe DK Metcalf. Freiermuth is a sneaky good tight end, and Rodgers will utilize him. But Flores' time with Pittsburgh, I think that would more get into the dichotomy of him thinking or him planning for, all right, I think it's a 7.8 out of 10. In this situation, Tomlin guides them to do this. And then you ride that discernment, but I haven't really thought much about it.
Well, from a personnel standpoint, that dictates so much of what Flores is able to do. So other than understanding kind of the philosophy and having a close connection with Tomlin and Flores, the ability to per se predict outside of understanding the basics of tendencies, I think you're dead on there.
The one of the biggest keys of the Cincinnati game, it was also a key in the Atlanta game, is the Falcons came out throwing roundhouses. All right. They were throwing uppercuts in symbolic fashion. They took the fight to the Vikings. They landed significant blows early that slowed things for the home team. Last game, the Vikings came out punching, and they had the energetic and physical mojo that dictated the tempo of the game. And Cincinnati then made mistakes. So now now it's injury, but not getting hurt and leaving the game. It's insult with the turnovers and the mistakes and the backup quarterback meshing with the injury, which is the fact that these guys came to play today. Holy cow. And now we're back on the field because of a turnover. So the mental part of it can be underrated at times, but jumping out of the gate with a crowd that's going to be nuts. I mean, it's going to have a frenzied atmosphere after those teams run out of tunnels and in the early stages of the game. The European games always do.
PA Nordo, Vikings guy here. My daughter and I headed across the pond to go to Dublin, London.
That's
we
cool.
hope to run into you. But Vikes are going to go 4-1. They're going to win the next two games. I mean, Rodgers is a broken shell of himself, and whoever plays quarterback for the Browns, who cares? We ain't doing the Packer thing with that. We're too talented, and we have too much good coaching. So hope to see you over there, Paul Allen. This is Vikings guy. Skol across the pond. Let's go.
I would, if it was you have to be right or it's a heaven or hell deal, I would say 4-1. But it's going to be a long time out of your element with a bye on the horizon. I don't anticipate that being a problem because this team is just squared away that way, with its forward thinking and casting the gaze the way of things that are coming. But that's a human nature tool. You got no idea what's happening in people's personal lives when they've been gone a week and change. Then they got to get out and practice. Then they got to play a very violent game. You have no idea, but it's a long time away. It's unprecedented. So therefore, quite honestly, it's impossible really for anybody to bang down their fist and say, I know it's going to go this way.
Yeah.
Well, no, you don't, because nobody's ever done it. So therefore, it's the unknown.
Hey, PA Nordo. It's Dylan from Northfield. I got two things about the trip overseas. First, these games are a lot tougher than we thought they were going to be. Kind of imagined going into the season, well, we got to take two overseas, but at least they're going to be easy to win. Second thing, there's no way I see us bringing McCarthy back against the Browns defense, even if he's ready. Looks like Wentz for two more, at least.
Yeah, I'd bet Wentz for two more. And
I would too.
Then during the bye, you see, that's where it depends on how Carson plays, but maybe it doesn't. I mean, again, it's that their organizations are not haphazard. Organizations are, generally speaking, not dart throwers, where this is, and I can't be 10 of 10 conclusive on this, but, I don't believe this is an audition to potentially win something for the next 5 years from a quarterback standpoint. However, I think it's fair to determine how things worked last game and how they work the next two to determine what's right moving forward. And if that's the case and they win both those games and the quarterback, does his job the right way, well, that leads to conversations with team captains and private conversations with players who play with said individual. Yeah, it potentially could be a tricky situation, maybe one about which we'll never know.
Good morning, PA Nordo. I think the Vikings are going to come back with a 4-1 record with their bellies full of Guinness, shepherd's pie, and a little English breakfast. The Steelers haven't been able to get a run game going yet, and if our Vikings D plays like it did last week, get a little pressure on these old-timers, Flacco and Rodgers, I think we'll be coming back looking good, baby. And if Wentz is playing like he did, just be a game manager, you might get a shot to get a little revenge on the Eagles. Skull, baby.
That's a good take about the running game. Warren is a good, not great back, physical back, not super fast. Until further notice, they're done with the Iowa kid. I mean, when he messed up that kickoff, they're done with him. I mean, he's almost a non-factor within this covenant. I don't even know if he got a carry last game. So their running game, they're near the bottom with yards per carry. I think it's like 2.8. And when you have Rodgers, what's supposed to work? The running game is supposed to work because you got that quarterback.
Yeah.
The play action is supposed to work because you got that quarterback and a running back who's good enough. So that bears conversation with Ben Lieber, who joins us around the corner. Beloved Nacho into the second hour of 9 to noon on KFAN.